think it's very common, this idea, since the centuries, master-disciple, but it doesn't mean there has to be a personal master or something. There will always be a master, and the master will always be the self, appearing in different forms. So you can say even a stone can be a master, or a tree, or the world, or the universe, call it whatever. It depends on what you need. It will always be right. So it doesn't have to be a person-to-person relationship or something, but there will always be a relationship in a relative way of the self and the self. The self as a master and the self as a pupil of it, and the disciple maybe. So if the longing is strong enough and you're ready for it, the real form of the master appears. Sometimes it's a person, sometimes it's an animal, sometimes it's whatever you can imagine. It will always give you the right hint to whatever you are. So the master will always be a milestone, like a pointer to what you are, but it doesn't need necessarily to be a person-to-person relationship. So in that sense, I don't go for that needs a personal teacher.
Yeah.
Maybe it is one, maybe not, but it's not a necessity. It doesn't have to be like it. It can be any way. So mainly it's like you have to see all the moments who led to this moment, to your whole life, were a teacher. Life was teaching you by whatever. In good or bad ways, or in whatever ways. You cannot take one moment out of your whole story, because all the story is about yourself with yourself. It's the self leading you all the way. And sometimes there are partly like there are persons or masters who give you a teaching, but it's just a part of it. You have to look at your whole story, and every step led you to this moment. If this is an understanding, then understanding comes from all the moments before, and not from a special teaching or something. So in that sense, what to say? Everyone has this a unique way. If there is some never-ending story, like an aha happening, this awakening of this so seemingly asleep ignorance to that what you are, it's not depending on a special way. It can be in any way. So in that sense, I have no lineage. For me, there is only this lineage of the self, and the self has no lineage. There is just moment by moment the self, whatever you call entertaining itself or being a pointer for itself, and always ready for itself. So in that sense, grace is never, never. And grace is the only, what is the nature of self, who gives you the grace of, call it teaching, pointers, milestone, direction. Without that self, nothing will happen anyway. So in that sense.
Okay, thank you. So in your case, if I may ask, there was in the end no specific personal teacher.
No, there was more like a mountain, Arunachala.
The mountain, Arunachala,
but
in India.
Yeah, but it's more like the light of Shiva, the light of life, like awareness. It's seemingly the recognition that even the light is an experience. So even the light you cannot be. This is like the mountain, like Arunachala, the light of Shiva. It showed me that even the light is not what I am. So in that instant, I be, and will be the darkness itself. Never knowing myself in anything, not even in the purest light of awareness, I can find myself. So in not finding yourself, even the purest light of Shiva, whatever you call awareness, you can rest as that what can never be found. And never be lost for that. So what cannot be found cannot be lost, and there is a peace which is not depending on finding. That peace is not interrupted. It was, is, and will be, and not depending on understanding or finding something. So in that sense, the mountain became the final touch. I think they don't relate to each other. They are just different. Right now, here there is different states where you just perceive yourself in this level of personal consciousness. You can say dimensions of consciousness, but they're all dimensions of consciousness. It's not like they relate to each other. They are not different in nature. They're just different ways of whatever experiencing yourself. It's just different ways of experiencing yourself, like the personal way, like from me to you, or whatever, from the me to the world, in the differences, or in the wonder state, where there is just spirit experiencing itself from, like space, where everything is in you, but you are not in it. It's like you're in oneness. Or then it comes to the awareness, the third level, or the third state. And then you're just awareness, like a screen, where all this like dances of energy or light is happening. So light, where light is dancing, it is like a third state. You can call it enlightenment or something. And then maybe there comes a fourth state, the prior state, which you are in spite of light. So you're prior to the experience of light.
Light, yeah.
But even the prior is a fourth state, it's still just a different way of experiencing yourself. So experience yourself as absence of light. So you're in the presence of light and you're in the absence of light. Then, okay, that's prior to light and prior to absence. But then comes the fifth state where presence and absence are not different. Then you are the awareness which is not even aware about itself, because there is no personal awareness. Then comes the space like spirit, which is just spirit, but no one has spirit. There is just, you cannot even name it, anything. And then the personal, the absolute man, where you don't know what is a man and what is not a man. So you're like, whatever. You cannot transcribe it. It's beyond anyone's compensation, whatever, of understanding. So in that 7 ways you may experience yourself, but still you cannot experience what you are. Still you are just landing somewhere and departing again. You're just like an elevator, from the lower to the higher, you can say. But the higher is not higher and the lower is not lower, because all of that is consciousness. So you experience yourself in different ways in consciousness. But what you are is still unknown. It's not what you can find in it. So you travel infinitely, but in all of that, it's an infinite way, but in all of that you cannot find what you are. In none of them. And none of them is better than the other. So the personal is not low and the higher, whatever, super consciousness, the awareness is not higher in this sense. You can just make it like a difference. They're different, but they're indifferent, not in nature, not different. But in difference in the way you're experiencing yourself. But by the differences, you are not different. The equality is only that there are consciousness experiencing itself in infinite ways. But it doesn't make consciousness more or less. So there is not more or less quality. There's only the quality of self in all of them. So in that sense, enlightenment is not better than having a sip of coffee. The next moment is just the next moment. The self realizing itself in different ways, but in none of them it's more real or not real. So the question of real and unreal doesn't appear. It's neither real or unreal, it's just what you are. And that is I am that from Nisargadatta. I am that which is that, but I'm not defining it. So it's not here or there or prior or anywhere. So even prior is just a pointer which is later on destroyed again. Because even prior is too much. So nothing is too less and everything is not enough for whatever. So in that sense, cosmic. Or it's like a comics to show. It's a comic consciousness who is making all these jokes and thinking higher is higher, higher is higher and lower is lower. But the question is for who? It needs one who defines it. And for him, maybe for a person, no, for a person there is higher and lower, but for the absolute, there is not. Something is more or less absolute, it's impossible. There's an absolute personal experience, an absolute impersonal, an absolute absence, an absolute presence, an absolute prior, an absolute whatever. So only the absolute is. So for the absolute, by all the differences, there is no difference. So what to do? Up and down.
Yeah, in the elevator.
And you think you can push a button? No, it goes up and down without you even deciding it.
It goes up and down. Yeah.
Just where the attention goes to, and you cannot control attention. Attention just shifts the whole day up and down.
The attention of that.
What you are. The attention goes through different rooms of your house. It's like a big house. Your attention goes up and down, in the cellar, in the living room, in the kitchen, and in the rooftop, or on the roof, in the space like this, and many different rooms. But this is a house of the self, the home for which is self, and there is no better room. In the cellar maybe there is no light, but still the self is there, what it is. So without light, so what the self is doesn't need any light to know itself or not to know itself. By that, it is the house, but it will never know what is the house.
Yeah. So the nature of all these 7 states as you mentioned them, is the same. That's all.
It's a very self. It's not
Yeah,
the
it's
same
all
with
the
the
self.
same. No, it's
Yeah,
all.
it's all the self.
No, just to make it
Yes.
clear, it's not the same.
No, it is.
It's
Yeah, I
all the
understand.
self.
Yeah,
There's nothing but self.
yeah,
It's always like the perceiver perceiving what is perceived is self.
yeah.
The heart of all of that is self. So there is no difference in differences. And no oneness in oneness.
Yeah.
Because oneness means two again. So there's an experience of oneness, but that's not the self. Experience of two-ness is not the self. The experience of prior is not the self. That what is experiencing everything can never be experienced by whatever. So it's dreaming itself in differences, but the differences are dream-like, but they are not real in that sense. So they don't make a difference. Okay.
Okay.
Bullshit.
Please explain why this is bullshit.
It's just giving a definition of someone who wants to blame someone who thinks he is in the old tradition and the old tradition is better than the new one, and just making differences, and the new one are not ready, they're just not finished, and the teacher's not finished, and they're giving only one advice, and it's all limited. And the old Vedanta teachers and Advaita, they are having so many different ways of giving you hints and whatever, and traditions and bhakti and jnani and all the differences, and they're much more efficient as Neo-Advaita. Neo-Advaita is getting stuck into some recognition which is limited. And then it called like a Neo-Advaita teacher is just giving you like a narrow mind point, one recognition. There is no one, but no one, they would say, is still one too many. And especially one who is recognizing it is still one too many, so it's not finished, Neo-Advaita. So it needs then the next step, whatever. And I would agree in it, because Neo-Advaita, like, there are so many so-called big guys and think Tony Parson or think this Neo-Advaita pointers, they say you are nothing, but nothing for me, if you ask me, it's still too much. It's still one who is recognizing himself as nothing, makes himself different to something else. And that is not, I'm not interested in. It's just still like a landing point. Wherever you land, you have to depart again. It's just a temporary understanding, as everything. So for me, understanding will never lead to what you are anyway. And not in any way. That I'm more like Buddha, I say there is no way, in any way. In no way you can reach what you are. There is no attaining what you are. And if you could be attained, it would not be what you are. So attaining the understanding of that you are nothing is still, I don't know, as I said in the beginning, bullshit.
That is at least very clear.
Yeah.
So in fact, you say it's an unfinished business, although these people of Neo-Advaita themselves are pretending that
They claim.
to have finished business.
And whoever claims to be finished, doubtful. Because that's what is self for me is never finished, because it never started. How can that end what never started? So how can that be finished? For who? What is the finishing? Like a finishing understanding or the final understanding? All of that I have no idea. That is like Balzacca, the final understanding.
Yeah.
For me there is no such thing as final anyway. So for me there is a never-ending story of the consciousness inquiring into itself, and there is never any final understanding. Whatever is final is just the beginning for the next one, the next moment. It's just one leading to the other one, but it never finishing in any way. So how can the self finishing itself? By what? What self needs to realize itself? Again a question. Needs the self to know the self, to be the self? Needs the self to be realized, to be real? Or is it all a lie? It's a real lie. Whatever they find is a real lie. So whatever can be found are real lies, but not realization. What to do? In that sense, Neo-Advaita is fine. It's as good as any Advaita, anything.
Yeah.
But they're all empty. Finally, they're all empty. All the books and all the Upanishads and all the Vedas, in the end, when there is an end, no one needs them. They're just for entertainment. And they will be gone anyway one day. And you will be still there, but you are. So in that sense, all of that is just like reading, like watching a movie, like a Hollywood movie. All the scriptures are made for entertainment, but not for finalizing the self, final understanding. And not for sure, not for becoming happy.
And sorry, and sure not
For becoming happy.
for becoming happy, yeah?
Because there was never anyone who reached happiness. So in that sense, they're all okay. I don't mind them at all. I have no conflict with anyone, no teacher, anything, because if I would have a conflict, I would have a conflict with myself. But I cannot have a conflict with myself because I'm in that way responsible for all of that. For Neo-Advaita, Advaita, Vedanta, scriptures and all of that. In this sense, I have written them all, I read them all, I did it all. I'm the Hollywood way of existence, but it's very easy to bury this, whatever, this absolute responsibility is light, as light. So what? So I have fun about it, but I'm not here to blame anyone. He's more or less, because whatever I can point to is ignorance will not get better by more ignorance or deeper ignorance. And that what is you may call truth has no higher or lower or deeper or anything, and no final thing for sure. So in that sense. No, I don't say there's no person. I say there's an experience of a person. I don't deny a person, but I deny a person that the person can realize anything. Because the person is already part of realization, and that what is part of realization cannot realize anything. It's like a share can, if a share knows to be a share, a share cannot share a share. Whatever, know a share, and the self cannot know the self, and if whatever. So I just say how it came up. This I am be what you cannot not be. It's like it was in San Diego, down maybe 15 years ago, or 18, and someone asked me, because Ramana's pointer is like be what you are, or be as you are. And he said, yeah, but the moment I try to be what I am, it's like an action. How can I am what I am? So yeah, then just try, because I said, okay, then let's go a bit deeper. Try to be what you cannot not be.
Yeah.
And then there's a gap. You cannot finish it, you cannot grab it. There is a gap, like blank, totally blankness. And then maybe you experience in the total blankness you are. But you cannot know what that is. You cannot make it an object. Not even the subject. You are in the blankness of that absence. It's like a koan. It breaks your presence. Your presence cannot stay in that koan. And then there is a gap. But later on you make out of the gap against an understanding, because the person or this phantom needs an uninterrupted story. So, but in that moment maybe you get a taste of the tastelessness of what you are. That what you are can never be tasted in anything. So you are the blankness or blankness, whatever. And then maybe that becomes a reference point, more and more. So as more you go into that, to be what you cannot not be, there is this blankness, and maybe it will widen out, and then it becomes your, can call it maybe your real home, where neither is or not what you are. So in that sense I pointed out that what you are is uninterrupted. It is in the present and in the absence. So in whatever you can imagine it is, and if there's no imagination, you still are. So you're not depending on any experience to exist, or any definition or anything. So it's a direct pointer, you may say, but it doesn't mean you can become what you are by that. It's just like it takes away what can be taken away, and you still are what you are. The absolute leftover, when everything is gone. There's no idea left of any object, subject, or anything. Even like in deep, deep sleep, you still exist. In spite of any presence or absence, you are. And this pointer is, I'm pointing to. So I'm not, can teach you that, because you are that. You are the master itself in it. Because every night you drop everything, and still you are in deep, deep sleep. And then every morning it pops up again, and then the story continues. But you are with and without the story, with and without the presence. So you are in the presence, absence, and even prior to that presence, absence, with and without, whatever you can imagine, you are. And that can never be more or less by anything. So it's neither nothing or everything. It's neti-neti. You are absolutely don't know what you are and what you're not. So an absolute absence of one who knows or doesn't know anything. And not depending on anyone who knows or doesn't know anything. So no need to realize that. So in a way it's a paradox. You have to realize that you don't have to realize anything to be what you are. So it's an absolute unnecessity of anything. There is no necessity at all for you to know or not to know what you are. And that's called independency or moksha, or being free from freedom. So you are in prison experience and in freedom experience. You are. So what you are doesn't need to be free. It is as free in prison as it is free in freedom. So neither of that can deliver what you are or take it away. So no problem. That is I am. But whenever you start with I, it always becomes not right. So that's why I agree with Ramana. The best thing, if you can, be quiet. And be quiet means be complete as you are. And that completeness can never be touched by anything. You cannot lose it, you cannot gain it. It never needs to be known or not known. All what you can say, it cannot change that completeness you are.
And why was Nisargadatta talking about this 1 out of a million or whatever the number was? But he was, it seems as if he was talking about numbers, small numbers.
Yeah, but he didn't call it a person or something. He said maybe in some persons the self can talk unfiltered. It's like without a personal flavor. It just comes direct, like Jesus called it the living words. It's like a loudspeaker without a speaker. It's like a loudspeaker where the energy is just pronouncing itself, the self pronouncing itself. And then maybe even 5 of 1 million or 1 of 1 million can be a loudspeaker without a speaker, without intention of teaching or anything to give. It's like the living word who has no direction, doesn't want to teach you anything. It just accepts you as you are. There's just the self-talking, the self-listening, without any necessity. So without any intention of higher and lower, or I can give you something, or now you have to understand. All of that is absent. There's just entertainment, the self-entertainment, where there is no difference. It was like Ramana's eye to eye is the same, where there is no teacher, no student, no guru, just self. And that they call good company, where there is no company. So in that sense, I'm in that tradition, but I still would not call them my whatever lineage or something, because for me the self has no lineage. There is no such thing as lineage, anything. But I would say that resonates whatever, more to what I am than something else, but not that I'm coming from anywhere. It's not a little aha. It's a silent aha. It's not a little one. It's a quiet. That what is always quiet is just quiet, and that is like ah.
But then silent.
That's they call it. No, it's like a laughter of infinity. The infinite starts laughing about itself, that it ever could believe that something has to be done. You start laughing about yourself all the time. It's like a yeah, it's like it's not a recognition anything that you laugh about your own stupidity because you cannot blame anyone else anymore, because only you can be as stupid as you can be. Absolute stupid, absolute ignorant about yourself. And maybe you fall in love with this ignorance of not knowing yourself. In that moment you fall totally in love with ignorance, because that ignorance is bliss. Not knowing yourself, what you are and what you're not. There's such an ecstasy in that not knowing at all, and being what can never be known by anyone, not even by yourself. Such a peace which is aha. So it's not a little aha or a big aha, it's just, it's like the corpse, the final breathing of the corpse. The final breath, the last breath of the corpse.
Yeah.
It's like a balloon and the last air goes out.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
the last hot air.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So it's quite aha. But it has no consequence. That's the beauty of it. It doesn't make anyone's life better or worse or anything. So it doesn't bring you happiness, it doesn't take sadness away, so it doesn't make any change at all. And there is no need for any change at all for what you are. So nothing has to happen, nothing has to be changed for you to be what you are. And that peace can never be given and never be taken away from you, and was never taken away, and could not be given by anyone. So, it's like whatever you call maybe the final orgasm, which can never end, never started, can never end. And this orgasm or ecstatic peace you are, that being absolute quiet, is just that. And nothing is more ecstatic than that. One never needs to experience any ecstasy at all.